Hi there, I'm Jennifer Angel. This is my horoscope overview and report per sign for week of February the 9th, 2015. Yay! 15 is my lucky number, so I'm hoping this is going to be a lucky year for all of us. All right, so let's go through. There's not a lot of major aspects happening this week, but we do have a few significant things that are going on. And firstly, Mercury is going to come out of its retrograde transit. Hooray! There's plus and minuses of everything, and there's a plus and minus of Mercury retrograde as well. I mean, when it is retrograde, it's a great time for planning, organizing, reviewing things, and I've certainly been doing that myself, and getting things together, and I'm getting ready to make some changes, and I'm doing all the planning now and getting ready to make the changes in another week's time. Okay, now let's just go through the dates on coming out of the transit, because it's going to come out stationary direct on the 12th. I've got here, and it's in the sign of Aquarius. Now, when a planet goes in and out of a retrograde transit, we go through what's called a storm period, and it's stationary, and then when it does the turn, or the illusion of the turn, we get all that disruption happening. So it's really, I say, I mean, it's up to a week, but really it's the 2 or 3 days either side of when a planet goes in and out of retrograde, which can be the most disruptive. Then it settles down a little bit. All right, so we're coming into that. So like 12th, 13th, leading up like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's pretty disruptive this week. So here's the rules with Mercury retrograde. You don't want to make any assumptions. So, tune into your intuition. And if something doesn't feel right, then you know what? There's a good chance it isn't. Try not to start things. Get organized, planning, as I just said before, and try to get things, all set in place so you can push the button next week. That would be ideal. But of course, life doesn't always wait for Mercury to come out of retrograde. So if you have to go ahead and sign a document or commence something, then so be it. Okay, just make sure that you run an eye over it again. Read the fine print, look at the details. If you're not great at proofreading or looking at details, and get someone else to look it over. Be careful with things like your keys and travel. I've got a friend that says he's lost his keys about 150 times during this Mercury retrograde, and wallet too, unfortunately. So you just want to take a little bit more care. Don't take any chances, any risks. Don't try to sort of run that red light or cross the road. You're better off just to be a little bit late and be a little more thoughtful about what you're doing, and watch people around you as well. So, this is a great time just to be a little bit more thoughtful of who you can help, because it can be disruptive on all levels. Let's not forget that Mercury is the communication planet and thinking planet. So, sometimes we just don't think well, during this time. So it's a great time to just watch what other people are doing and lend a helping hand as well. All right, now on the 14th, of course, we've got Valentine's Day. So, for all you people that are out there that have partners and you're planning, a fabulous night, there's a couple of things to just be aware of. Now, there is not a lot going on in the planet aspects, but there is a moon squaring Venus and Mars. Okay, now Venus and Mars are both in the sign of Pisces. Very romantic placement. Now, Venus and Mars are like the yin and the yang of love. Venus being the romantic side and Mars being the passionate side. So these two together really do make up the love recipe, and we'll be going through each and every sign of what area of life that's going to have an effect on. So the moon is emotional energy, and the moon is in the sign of Sagittarius. Okay, so there's a little bit of a conflict here. Sagittarius are free-spirited, not really, a Sagittarian by choice will not make a commitment, generally if they don't need to. Of course, there's always an exception to the rule, and you have to take into account your personal chart as well. But just looking at the zodiac DNA of the placements and these signs here, we've got emotional moon in free-spirited sign, and Venus and Mars are in a very romantic sign, and with Pisces, and Pisces like live to love, it's really part of their DNA. So there's a little bit of conflict there. So if something doesn't come together the way that you would like or imagine for this Valentine's Day, then don't get too concerned about it, because as we go through, there's lots of other things that are coming up for love in February. I mean, on the 22nd, for instance, Venus and Mars are going to be conjunct. So it's like fusion of those two energies right at the same degree, and they're going to be in the sign of Aries, which is more about action and making things happen and bringing them into reality. So as I said, don't get too concerned. Now, I do have an article on my pages on the New York Daily News. So if you go to newyorkdailynews.com/horoscope and look for the article, should be down the right-hand side of that home page. My page is on there. That says the February Love Report, okay? So that gives you more of an idea of what's happening in February in regards to romance. So I would hop along and have a read of that. All right, let's go in. Oh, just a final word on Mercury retrograde. Even though it does come out of the retrograde transit this week, it doesn't actually come out of what's called the shadow period, which is the time it takes to get back to the degree that it first started at before it went retrograde, which is 17 degrees. So it doesn't actually get back to that point until March the 3rd. So if you wanted to be very technical, then you could hold off everything to March the 3rd, but I'm not going to. Okay, so as we get through, I certainly will try to hold off initiating anything new for this week, but come Monday the 16th, it's full steam ahead in my eyes. So, you can't put your life on hold forever for every single little transit that happens. You can just take it into consideration and tune into your instincts. That's really what's going to tell you the best thing for you to do. All right, so let's move on and have a look at each and every star sign. So starting off with Aries, the start of the zodiac. So let's have a look at the moon square Venus and Mars. First of all, Venus and Mars is in the sign right before you. So this is going to do a couple of things. It's going to highlight your intuition, really give it a sharp spark. So you should pay attention to your feelings, okay? More than your thoughts, perhaps, this week. You want to be a little bit careful of keeping secrets as well, because, if a secret is revealed, you want it to be revealed through you, not through someone else. So just be a little bit wary of that. Of course, not everybody needs to know everything either. So that's, you have to decide who needs to know what. The moon is going to be sitting in this is on Valentine's Day I'm talking now, was going to be sitting in your solar 9th house. So this is going to make you feel a little bit independent. But it's a visionary and a long range outlook, particularly as Saturn is also in this position of your chart. So when it comes to love, you want to be thinking about what you want for the long term rather than a frivolous encounter, okay? Although there's nothing wrong with a frivolous encounter now and again as well. Now, Mercury is coming out of retrograde and is in your solar 11th house. You want to be a little bit careful with dealings with friends this week. Misunderstandings can happen when misunderstandings can happen with Mercury, full stop. It's still the mischievous sign of the zodiac. So, but particularly when it's coming out of a retrograde transit, don't take anything for granted, okay? And if you think that there's been a misunderstanding, you're best to say something about it, particularly as you've got that secretive position there with Venus and Mars in your 12th house. Okay, so, but coming up on the 22nd, Aries, you've got Venus and Mars both in your sign, and they're going to be conjunct together, so it's like you're leading up. Things are building this month, so you could certainly meet. So if you're looking for love, it can certainly happen this month, okay? So make sure you're looking your best and portraying the image that you want, okay? All right, now let's go and have a look at Taurus. Venus Mars is sitting right in your area of friendship, Taurus. And if we have a look at the 14th, which is Valentine's Day, that square with the moon is going to be around money as well and support from other people. So it's almost like if you're looking for love, don't forget, passion and romance are very important in the equation, but friendship is the glue that holds everything together. So you want to try and build, whether you're with somebody or looking for someone, you want to build a strong friendship, because that's what will endure anything, okay? Be careful of money issues. And as a Taurus, quite often you will marry well, and you don't want to make it like your number one thing, but it's possible that a financial situation can be very good for you right now, and it can come through, a romantic area of your life. So that's nice news. All right, so let's have a look at Mercury. Mercury retrograde coming out of its retrograde transit in your area of business. So be a little bit careful with how you communicate to your co-workers or your boss at work. Timing is everything. If you need some answers, then maybe, if you don't try to force an issue this week. Best to do your planning, strategize how you can move ahead with a certain area, and see how that goes. And just use your instincts and tune into your intuition. This is a very good week for tuning into intuition for all signs. And you'll know then when the time is right to go ahead and when the time's right to step back. And the right timing, particularly with business this week, can make it or break it, okay? So don't rush forward in a hurry. All right, so Gemini. Gemini, we've got the moon. Let's have a look at Valentine's Day straight off. We've got the moon right opposite you on the 14th, is going to be in the square with Venus and Mars. You could certainly, and Venus and Mars are sitting in your solar 10th house, all to do with business. So you could certainly meet somebody around your business or the industry that you work. So if you've got some events, I would be saying yes for them, and picking up those invitations and getting out and about and being social. And quite often we fall in love with people we work with because we get to spend more time with them. We get to know them, a little bit better, because let's face it, when we first meet somebody, we're all on our best behavior a little bit, aren't we? And after a while, once you're working with somebody for a while, you get to know all their most irritating as well as irresistible traits. So love can certainly happen around around your work area at the moment. And of course, the moon is right opposite you there in your love zone. Still talking about the 14th. I mean, the moon will move every few days. So, excuse me. So, so things can get emotional as well. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that, because, when you're emotional, you're really like speaking from your heart, okay? And really, saying things as they are, and, portraying to people how you really feel. So, as long as it's not destructive, then emotions are good. And also it allows you to release how you feel and release your emotions. There's nothing worse than, pushing them down all the time, because you know what? They're going to come up at some point. So this could be an emotional time for you, and that's okay. Now, Mercury, your ruling planet, in your solar ninth house, if you've got any travel arrangements happening at the moment, particularly long distance travel or communications abroad or overseas, international, then be, I was going to say be a little bit careful. I'd say be a lot careful about them, okay? Don't assume anything. All sorts of things can be disrupted this week with Mercury coming out of its retrograde transit. So emails perhaps don't go through, or messages are misconstrued. You want to not make any assumptions, double check everything, and you may think something is the way it is, but really the other person has no clue what's going on, or didn't even get the information. So you're best to follow up, double check, okay? All right, let's move on and have a look at Cancer. So, of course, Cancer, you're ruled by the moon. So when we have a look at Valentine's Day on the 14th, when we have that moon squaring Venus and Mars, we've got the moon in the sign of Sagittarius, which is your solar 6th house, the position of your chart. So this is a great time to put some focus on you, okay? And particularly focus on your well-being and your image, and just, you're always out there doing things for other people. It's time to put your energy back and do something for you. Now, Venus and Mars are in your solar 9th house. So when I look at the 9th house to do with love, excuse me, it's very much to do, in my mind, with this connection, that you need to work out in your heart and mind what it is that you want. And really, whether we're talking about love, career, home, family, whatever, this is the first step for you to get clear about what you want to happen in your life. And if you're in a relationship, then, is it working for you? Don't forget that all relationships need some level of maintenance, which means some level of compromise. And if you're looking for love, then, what is it that you want? Where is your point of compromise? What is your must-haves on your love list? What are the areas that you can negotiate? What are the areas of compromise? Okay, and once you get that set, of course, I find when you fall in love, sometimes your love list just totally goes out the window, but at least you have a starting point. And we all have certain core values of things that sit best with us. It doesn't mean to say that they're, right or wrong or better than anyone else's core values, but they're ours, and that's how we lead our life, and that's what we find important. And we want to be with someone who at least shares those core values and beliefs, while being open to learn from them as well. So on Valentine's Day and leading up to this point, then I feel that's important for you now, and you can find that you can start, thinking about that more seriously, and just focusing on it a little bit more. Now, Mercury comes out of retrograde this week and middle of the week, so it's going to be a little bit disruptive this week. You want to make sure anything to do particularly with money or financial dealings that you have with other people, or investments, perhaps agreements that you've got going on, make sure that there's no misunderstandings, okay? So don't hastily sign anything. It would be best if you didn't actually sign anything this week at all, but sometimes that's unavoidable. So make sure that you double check. And you want to double check arrangements, particularly if someone else is managing your money, or someone else is, even, it doesn't have to be big money, it can be just a little money. And just make sure you're on top of it. Sometimes when someone else knows that you're on top of it, it makes them do a little bit of a better job. So you want to have a little bit of a big brother, let's say, attitude about looking after. And you're very good with money, a Cancer. So, if you don't look after your cash and your bank accounts or your investments or whatever's going on, then who will? Okay, so it's your responsibility. Make sure you do that. All right, so let's move on and have a look at Leo. Excuse me. Okay, so Leo, right opposite to you is Mercury, and coming out of its retrograde transit this week, midweek. So it's going to, leading up to and out of this transit, the week can be a little bit disruptive, confusing. Don't take anything for granted. It's probably not the best time to have a heart-to-heart with your nearest and dearest. But if you do have to, then, plan it out a little bit more. Have a think about what do you want to achieve. Make sure the timing's right. Let's not forget that Mercury is a planet of communication. It's the thinking planet. So, things can go a little bit haywire. And sometimes when things start to go haywire, it's like no matter what you say, it's like the more you say, the worse it gets. So that's the type of thing that can happen with a Mercury retrograde coming out of its retrograde transit. So it's not to say that you can't have a deep and meaningful, but just, be a bit more sensitive about what's going to happen, because, every cause does have an effect, as we know. All right, so let's have a look at Valentine's Day on the 14th. So we have Venus and Mars in your solar 8th house. So this is a very passionate position, and it does square the moon, and the moon is in your 5th house. So love affairs can start here. So you could, if you're looking for love, you could certainly, excuse me, you could certainly cross paths with, or literally bump into someone who has your attention. Okay, now the only thing to watch here that I can see is you want to recognize that when you get that electric moment of that first love moment, which is absolutely delicious. I mean, enjoy it by all means, but just know that you're not seeing the full person. Okay, and as the time goes on, then each of us feel safer to reveal more of ourselves. So this is a little bit of an infatuation, which doesn't mean to say that it can't lead into something more serious, but Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the electric moment of love and the passion that comes with it, by all means. But just something to keep in mind, okay? All right, let's move on to Virgo. Venus and Mars, right opposite you, Virgo. So let's talk about Valentine's Day first. Excuse me. Now, we are, and it's sitting in this same position as Neptune as well. So Neptune is very romantic. It's in the sign of romance, Pisces, and it's in right opposite you in your solar seventh house. It's the area of relationships. So guess what? It's like, even if you don't want to get involved in a romantic situation, it's going to be hard to ignore. And even if you're not paying attention, it's almost like this can be at least a frivolous flirtation going on. Now, there is a square with Venus and Mars on Valentine's Day with the moon. Now, the moon is sitting in your solar fourth house, so which indicates that something around the home can be emotional. Now, squares can quite often be triggers, okay? So the moon square Mars and Venus is not a terribly disruptive, square, but it still is a square. So, and the moon is emotional. It is around your family and your home. So, and in this area, we've got Saturn sitting in this area as well. So there could be something that's coming up from the past that you perhaps need to deal with. So, when your emotions are sparked or triggered, it gives you a chance to look at something a little more closely. And you want to do that if that comes up for you over this period. So it's the intensity that helps you sort of get in touch with emotional baggage, let's say, and release it. And once you can get in touch with it, acknowledge it, release it, well, guess what? Then you don't have to deal with it again. Hooray. But as Alana says on OWN, you got to do the work. And, there could be a little bit of that coming up for you this week. But it's a great position with these two planets right opposite. There's, even though there could be some work to do, it's also a fabulous love placement. Okay, so enjoy. Now, your ruling planet Mercury does come out of retrograde this week. It's in your solar sixth house. This week is likely to be a little bit disruptive as the planet goes out of that retrograde transit. In your solar sixth house, a couple of things to watch out for here. You are the sign of, you're the queen and the king of organization and systems and routines. Good week to have them in place, okay? So the more that you can follow your system and your routine, the less disruptive the week can be. Because certainly in the sixth house, if you're not organized, when there's a little bit of disruption in this house, it can just have you like running around, spinning your wheels, rather than, being as productive as you could or as you would like to. So keep that in mind. And what happens then, if you're not organized and you do end up being distracted, then you can end up working longer hours, and then we've got, you're not getting enough sleep, or your well-being starts to suffer as well. So the key to this week, to combat that Mercury coming out of its retrograde transit, is to just stay strict on your organization, Virgo, okay? It shouldn't be too hard for you. All right, let's move on to Libra. All right, so Libra, we've got Mercury retrograde coming out of the retrograde transit midweek, likely to be a little bit disruptive this week. And this is in your solar fifth house. So it's likely that you'll be wanting to work with people, or you're working in a team environment, and not everybody can come together at the right time. Things just don't quite gel together. That can be quite normal in a retrograde. So don't worry about it too much. It's like, there's no point trying to push or force something to happen when it's just the timing just isn't right. So try to go with the flow a little bit this week. Now, also, this is an area where love affairs can start, or it focuses on romance as well. So you want to be a little bit careful of having a deep and meaningful. Certainly go ahead and have a sensitive discussion if you think you need to, but you take a leaf out of your own book and be diplomatic about how you approach it, and make sure that whatever you're saying is understood in the way that you want it to be. That's really the main thing with Mercury retrograde. You want to just reconfirm that your message is being received in the way that you're putting it across, okay? Don't make any assumptions. Now, Venus and Mars is sitting in your solar sixth house. Of course, Venus is your ruler, so anything that happens with Venus is, has a great influence on you. And if we have a look at Valentine's Day on the 14th, so we've got Venus and Mars in your solar sixth house, a good time to focus a little bit more on. Use the essence of Venus to be your most charismatic and beautiful, because Venus rules all things of beauty. We do have a square with the moon on this day, with Venus and Mars both squaring the moon. And the moon is in your communication area. So there's a lot of opportunity for communication this week. There's some opportunity for miscommunication, and there's certainly can be emotional, okay? So try to, speak from the heart, operate from the heart, and, be true to you, and no one can say anything about that, okay? So as long as you're coming from the place where it's true to you, then that's the main thing, I think, for you this week, Libra. All right, so let's move on to Scorpio. So Scorpio, if we look at Mercury coming out of its retrograde transit this week, it's in your solar fourth house. So it's all around your home. This is all very much to do with your family, very much to do with self-nurturing as well. So with Mercury retrograde and coming out of that transit, there can be some misunderstandings or disruptions. So it's around your home and family area. Be a little bit careful there, okay? Now, if we have a look at Valentine's Day on the 14th, Venus and Mars are both sitting in your solar fifth house. Very nice position for teamwork, very nice position to working together and coming together with someone else. Also an area of love and romance, and particularly an area where the spark of love and romance can commence, okay? And these two together, it's like the yin and the yang of love. And of course, Mars being your co-ruler and the passionate side of the love recipe, and Venus being the romantic side. If you're looking for love, there's a very good chance that it can happen for you this month and over this period. Now, there is on Valentine's Day a square between Venus and Mars and the moon. And the moon is sitting in your solar second house. So be careful of money issues, anything to do with finances. Firstly, you don't want to overspend. And, one thing is to try and impress somebody, but, not if it's going to, number one, leave you short, and number two, if it gives them a false impression of your financial situation, then going forward, that's not really going to serve you well, okay? And it is to do with the moon, so it is emotional, and it could be bringing up things from the past as well, because in this area of your chart we have Saturn now, so it could be highlighting and just triggering some feelings or situations of something that's happened before, perhaps even in your childhood or perhaps around your home, family, and your parents, particularly a father figure. Okay, so try not to, past lessons are to be learned, not to be repeated. But, sometimes if you need to learn the lesson, sometimes you've got to repeat it. So be it. It's all perfect in the end. So the main thing, Scorpio, is that you recognize what's happening, and that acknowledgement and recognition, not sure if that's a word, that's the start of the healing. Okay, so it's a great week for romance. It's a great week for dealing with some past issues and emotional baggage, but be a little bit careful around the home environment with communication. All right, let's move on to Sagittarius. I'm going to start with, excuse me, Valentine's Day, Sagittarius, because we've got the moon is going to be in your sign on Valentine's Day, and it will square Venus and Mars. So Venus and Mars is sitting in your home and family area. So something that's going on around this area of your life can perhaps just need a little bit more attention, can be quite emotional. We do have Saturn in your sign as well, so it could be to do with past family issues. So all of the above. Now, of course, a square and the moon squaring with Mars, particularly because Mars is often the trigger, can really bring up some emotional triggers this month, and particularly this week and around Valentine's Day, when this particular aspect is. Now, if you've got something, we all have like some emotional baggage, because we're all living life, so there's always something for us to deal with. So right now it seems to me that you have an opportunity to clear some of this energy, which is going to just help to release it and open up and make you more open to accept a relationship. And so this is a time where you can really start to evaluate what's happening in your life as well, particularly as Mercury is in your third house of communication and coming out of its retrograde transit this week. So with that happening, that really can make you feel a little bit, and it's on the 12th, so we're still going to be in that disruptive storm period right through the Valentine's weekend, starting to free up a little bit, but it's really can make you feel a little bit unsettled. But what can come out of this is it can really clear some energy. Okay, so what's that term? No pain, no gain. So it's a very, very positive. I really see that you can lift some energy during this week, and at the end of it, feel very free, like a whole load can lift off your shoulders and off your heart. Okay, so. But as Mercury is in that area of communication, it is the planet of communication and thinking planet, you want to be a little bit careful of doing anything too rash, because Mars, is like impulsive. Think things through, and because tune in and check into your intuition, and pay attention rather than try to rashly move forward on something. Pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to the signposts and the coincidences in life to know that you're on the right, heading in the right direction. And, if you can balance out your thinking intellect with your intuitive instincts, then you can really, that will help to center you. And once that you're centered, then you'll be able to make the right decisions for yourself. Okay. All right, let's move on to Capricorn. Hey, Capricorn, how are you all today? All right, so we've got Mercury coming out of its retrograde transit this week, midweek, so the whole week's going to be a little bit disruptive. It's sitting in your solar second house, all to do with money, possessions. It's also very much to do with how you feel about money and possessions. So this is a great week, as always with Mercury retrograde, great week for planning, getting things organized, redoing your goals, which is what I'm doing at the moment because I'm working with a life coach. So I'm like redoing all of my goals and my business plan. A great time to do that during Mercury retrograde. Still a great time to do it this week, and also this week is particularly a good time to quietly sit and think what your association is with money, possessions, your financial security. Like, how do you feel about it? Do you have like an upper limit, and you want to try to get in touch with this? Because sometimes we have like an upper limit, we get to that limit, and then all of a sudden something else happens and we go out and blow it, and so we stay at that limit. So, and that can really just excuse me, that can really be some type of emotional block that's from even your childhood or something that's happened in your life. So if you can sit quietly in meditation, or whatever you do when you get your mind out of that space, whether it's go to the gym or a walk, or try to spend some time by yourself and just sort of think about how you view your financial situation. And here's a question to ask yourself: if you could have everything that you wanted, how would you feel about that? Like, how would your life change? What changes would you have to incorporate in your life? And that can be a very interesting question, because there's always, I mean, a Capricorn has more of an understanding of it, but with success and financial abundance comes a great deal of responsibility, and not everybody wants to have that responsibility. Fortunately for us Capricorns, we don't mind the responsibility, but that's sort of the idea that I want to give you. Is there something that's really underlying, sitting below in your psyche there, that is stopping you from having everything that you want in life? And I'm bringing this up now with Mercury in this solar second house is the area where you can get in touch with that. And with Mercury coming out of that retrograde, it can be a little bit unsettling, which can really trigger you to getting down deep and seeing what's going on. Okay, all right, let's move on and have a look at February the 14th, Valentine's Day. I hope you've all got something special happening. Now, Venus and Mars are both in your solar third house, very much to do with communication. There is a square right on Valentine's Day with Venus and Mars going to square the moon. Now, the moon is right before you, so at the sign before you, your solar 12th house. So first of all, be careful of secrets. And if you think someone else is keeping a secret, tune into your instincts. How do you feel about that? I mean, if you don't know, but everything's screaming to you that there is a secret, then it probably is. There probably is. But you're not really in control of anyone else. You're only in control of yourself. So make sure that you're not keeping any secrets, and keep the lines of communication open, okay? Now, later this month, on the 22nd, Venus and Mars are both going to be in your solar fourth house, and are going to be conjunct. So around your home, family is going to be like a very amazing time for love, and time where the home and family, of course, to you Capricorn, means security and longevity. So a true love that can signify security and longevity can come together. If not now, then certainly later in the month. And as I mentioned at the start in the overview, if you go to my pages on the New York Daily News, you can read the article I put together on February love, okay? All right, so let's move on. You have a great month. Aquarius. So Aquarius, we've got Mercury in your sign. So Mercury is the planet of communication. It's a thinking planet. It is retrograde and coming out of its retrograde transit this week. Now, midweek, so which means that the whole week pretty well is going to be a little disruptive, and it's right in your sign, so it's going to highlight some things to you that perhaps you need to look at. Certain things can come to your attention that perhaps need to change. It can be like a trigger for you. You can get some amazing insights and highlights. You want to try to be a little bit of a witness to your thoughts this week, and instead of being active with them, is just think things through. When Mercury is retrograde, it's always a great time for planning, thinking, reassessing, reevaluating, and strategizing. Okay, so be conscious of what comes up for you this week. Get a journal out. I would be writing little notes in the journal and start each day as the week goes on. Another part of the jigsaw puzzle can fall into place, okay? So pay attention to those pieces, and by the end of the week, and certainly from next week, then you'll be in a better position, a more knowledgeable position to make decisions from a more informed point, and you can start putting them into action, okay? So that would be my advice to you, how to deal with the Mercury retrograde in your sign. All right, let's have a look at Valentine's Day on the 14th. We've got Venus and Mars in the solar second house, all to do with money, possessions, also very much to do how you feel about the money and possessions, you know, how worthy you feel of having and attracting and manifesting in your life what you want, okay? And on the 14th, we've got Venus and Mars in a square aspect with the moon. Now, the moon is in your area of friendships, so it's like there's an opportunity now to build, if you're in a relationship, an opportunity to build a deeper bond with someone. Well, if you're in a relationship with your partner, obviously, but there's also an opportunity if you're looking for love, to find somebody who you have a potential of a strong friendship, okay? So this 11th house is a very social area. It's a very much an area of friends. And it's all very well to have, you know, romance and passion. And of course we want that, but it's really, as I often say, it's the friendship and that deep bond of love and trust, which really is the glue in part of the ingredient of the love recipe, okay? The glue that holds it all together. So this week, you have an opportunity to build that relationship. It is a square, so it's going to get you thinking. The moon is emotional, so it's going to sort of touch you at a deeper level. It may not all be roses this week, but it certainly will be beneficial, and the outcome can be very, very good, okay? But you've got to be prepared to look at what's coming up for you, and once you can do that, you can acknowledge it, deal with it, and overcome it, okay? And move on to greener, more romantic pastures, because coming out later in the month, this is actually a very, very interesting month for love. On the 22nd, we've got Venus and Mars in a conjunction, and it's right together. It's like the spark of these two love planets together, and it's going to be in your solar third house, which is all about communication, and you can have a very strong intellectual connection with someone, okay, which is great for you, Aquarius. All right, so Pisces, let's have a look at what's happening for you, Pisces. Well, you got Venus and Mars in your sign. So the two love planets, the yin and yang of love, Venus being romance, Mars being passion, sitting next to Neptune, the planet of imagination and romance, in one of the most romantic signs of the zodiac, Pisces. So it can all happen for you over this period, okay? But there's a couple of things to watch out for this week. First of all, we've got Mercury coming out of retrograde midweek, so leading up to that turn and then going direct. It's pretty well going to be a little bit disruptive on the communication level and with arrangements this week. Now, it's sitting in your solar 12th house. Be careful of keeping secrets, okay? And even not telling somebody can be thought as, keeping a secret. You don't want to build up a mistrust with someone simply because you didn't think they need to know, or you just neglected to say. I mean, you may not be necessarily meaning to keep a secret, but if someone finds out that you did something or said something or whatever and you didn't tell them, then it can set up that sort of mistrust. Well, I wonder what else is going on. All right, so you don't want to do that, obviously. So be careful of that. Be mindful of it. Don't make any assumptions either this week. Double check everything and tune into your instincts. Your instincts are going to be your instincts are always heightened, Pisces. You just need to learn to pay attention to them because you are a dual sign, the two fishies, and one swims one way, which is highly analytical, and the other swims the other way, which is highly intuitive. Okay, so you are naturally intuitive. That is going to be sparked this week. As I said, you just need to pay attention to it. Right, so let's have a look at the 14th on Valentine's Day. So Venus and Mars, as we've already gone through, in your sign, is going to square the moon. And the moon is in your solar 10th house, okay? So you're going to be perhaps a little bit preoccupied at work. You want to get, you want to be social and romantic, but there's other things that you mind. So this can set up a little bit of a conflict, and it can certainly set up an emotional sense as well. Now, you want to be careful that you're not using your work as a excuse not to get closer to someone or not to get more intimate with someone. And when I say intimacy, I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about intimacy as revealing to someone how you really feel, because that can make us feel a little bit vulnerable. So you just want to be careful that you're not using I'm so busy at work, or I don't have time, to avoid checking in and being real with your feelings, okay? Because love is a wonderful thing, and it's almost the thing you want the most in life, which is love, can be the thing that you're most scared of, because it can make you the most vulnerable. So sometimes we just have to take the giant leap and dive in and think, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? And what's the best thing that can happen, okay? All right, so love and luck to you. Have a fabulous week. Don't forget, coming up on the 22nd, if you go through and have a read of my February love report on the new daily news pages. Coming up on the 22nd, we've got Venus and Mars are going to be conjunct. So that's really the major sort of love moment. So if you can learn to just open yourself up over this week to feeling a little bit vulnerable, about giving more of yourself, then by the end of the month, who knows, something amazing can happen. So love and luck to you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Okay, bye for now.